what we do each month from the Fountain Church is provide opportunities for individuals to strengthen their leadership skills, capacities, knowledge. And we draw on and request and ask members of our community who are doing significant things in the area of business or non-for-profits or education or finance to come in and talk to us about leadership, sometimes just general leadership principles, and then sometimes specifically in the industry or the area of specialty that they operate. And so we've been doing this for about a year now, and we're really excited about what we have learned and what the future holds. And so we welcome each of you here with us this afternoon. And so I'm going to give a disclaimer before we start that I will be on mute most of the time because I have to take my grandson to a doctor's appointment, but I will be here. And Pastor Shepherd is going to actually lead this session for us. And so I'm going to turn it over to her to introduce our guest for today, who I'm glad to have you here with us. Jason, thank you so much. And Pastor Shepherd will introduce him and she'll moderate everything after that. So welcome.
Thank you, Pastor Lomax. As we get started, thank you everyone for muting your phones and your connection devices besides our speakers. Definitely want to welcome you all this morning. We are recording the session, just to keep in mind that in mind. It is my pleasure to introduce our wonderful guest this morning, Mr. Jason Jenkins, who is a friend of the Fountain and great community partner. He is in his 12th or maybe 13th season with the Dolphins organization, 21st season with the NFL, and as the Senior Vice President of Communications and Community Affairs, we are so excited that you are joining us this morning. I'm sure I could read more and more and more. I always look at the college of any of our guests, and it is great to see you are from Texas Tech University. That's exciting. So I turn it over to you to share you and your team, and we're once again excited to have you with us.
No, thank you so much for this opportunity to connect and talk. I mean, listening to Pastor Lomax, he's been an amazing friend, mentor, and leader, for us, here at the Dolphins, and getting the chance to work with the organization in a closer way has been both professionally fulfilling, but also personally impactful to me, as well. We have our Vice President of Marketing, Laura Sandoz, on the line as well. So she'll kind of walk through everything from a brand perspective, and also Stuart Drew, who leads our social media, and kind of hearing the ideas and the leadership lessons and building your brand. From the start, I think is very impactful, because one of the things we always stress in our organization is trying to be a continuous learner. So definitely ask a lot of questions throughout. Hopefully you're going to learn a lot. I'm going to learn a lot. I always learn something different when I hear Laura and Stuart, speak as well. So hopefully this will be valuable to you, whether it's your church, personally, professionally, as we look to do everything we can and being a great steward of our brand. So I'll share my screen. Thank you. All right, so I'll kind of walk my background a little bit. I grew up in Texas, like was mentioned before, in Texas. I grew up in a sports and entertainment environment, education environment. My father was a former professional football player and a football coach. My mother was a school counselor and educator. But really, just being in this field was not something I even realized or knew about actually until I went, to college. I went to Texas Tech out in Lubbock, Texas, as was mentioned. I was on the football team. I did not play. I was not, a great, basketball player, like the pastor, on the call. But I was a person that really loved being in education, loved being in journalism, and kind of used this opportunity once I was done playing at Texas Tech to kind of finish my career. I wound up being involved in the Black Student Association. And through that relationship, I met a person, Dr. Alfonso Scandra Jr., who became a mentor of mine and kind of pushed me into a career in athletic administration. So getting a chance to go from Texas Tech to Lehigh University, totally different environment in Pennsylvania, coming back down to Texas Southern University in Houston, where I was from, and was able to, with the goal of trying to become an athletic director, which is a leadership position within the organization, pretty much the CEO type in terms of running all the different areas. But I got my foot in the door through journalism. And that was my background. I love to read, I love to write, I love to communicate. And so doing what I'm doing now was really, really a dream come true, for that. Had the opportunity to work out in San Francisco with the 49ers. And then in 2009, I got a chance to work in the communications department, public relations department here with the Miami Dolphins, to kind of work my way up into different areas. So I've been very fortunate to have a career that's kind of spanned me around the country, and then sometimes, across the globe, in terms of some of the international games we played, whether it would be London or Mexico City or Osaka, Japan. So I've been very fortunate to be in this role. And sort of going into like the brand, I always try to kind of bring it back to our mission. Our Stephen Ross, our owner, and Tom Garfinkel, they've done an amazing job of being a student of the community, but also having us this be our North Star for our direction. We have, as South Florida's first professional football franchise, we have a lot of fans in this area, a lot of alumni, a lot of emotions that run deep. So we always want to honor that proud winning tradition of our team by building a high integrity, team verse, innovative, and results oriented organization that consistently competes for championships and makes an impact on and off the field. And I always try to look at it as like, we can, while we're not playing, we can create an excitement and an enthusiasm that helps the team win, but also equally as important things we do in the community as well too, to make sure we push those areas forward. So I kind of want to go a little bit in some of the roles and areas of accountability that I work with and share with the two women on this call, and Laura and Stewart. I oversee our communications. So whether that's our football communications or our business communications, that's sort of the events we have at the stadium, whether it's the Miami Dolphins or our concerts or uh, different University of Miami football games and also Dolphins games. Kind of work there to try to create positive narratives around the organization, building the brand, show your value in times of crisis, then also work with the media. So that's one facet of my job. I oversee our community affairs aspect as well. This past weekend, we had an event, the Dolphins Challenge Cancer, a big cycling event that raised over $5 million for Sylvester Comprehensive Cancer Center as part of a $75 million commitment to work with the Cancer Center to kind of fund innovative cancer research. We have a program called Football Unites, which is I'll go into a little bit deeper. Is our big community initiative around sports, using sports as a positive way to bring about social change. And also, obviously, we're in Florida, so football, reigns supreme. So getting a chance to do a junior Dolphins program, which highlights and incentivizes and creates an activity for healthy play as well. And then what you'll hear a lot further today is social media. Laura and her team do an amazing job. Stuart as well. We work side by side in different podcasts, different pieces of content, but also with the core function of that is the brand identity and who you are as a brand and the consistency associated with doing that. We're a business, so we look to grow revenue and also look at ways to increase our engagement, as well. It's part of the brand in terms of crisis management, but I think one of the things what you do when you deal with is how do you deal with a potential situation that could be negative. And one of the things we dealt with a couple of years ago was Laramie Tunsil. He was our first round draft pick, and he was at that time thought of as being one of the top 2 to 3 players coming out of college. We picked in the teens at that time, and then right before the draft, there was an opportunity where there was a video out with him potentially smoking marijuana in a gas mask, and the reality is that his draft stock kind of fell because of that. So that was the real time environment where we didn't have a top selection, but the idea of that is when that happened, how do we manage that? How do we make sure we put him in the best possible situation, but also make sure the fans and community is comfortable as well too. So whenever there's a crisis situation, and I always look into your brand as well, just because the situation hasn't happened to you does not mean it hasn't happened before. So you always got to do your research, be a continuous learner, and do these things. So we had a checklist of when we knew we were going to draft them, who needed to know and when. So that was from ownership to the general manager and the head coach. In that situation, they were more so telling us because of the draft situation, but also like developing a long-term objectives and plans. And the goal was, from a media perspective, this was not going to be a one-day story. This story was actually to be a story of redemption, a story of hope. But I was going to take time to be able to show that because of the situations he was dealing with. So we set that objective by the start of the season and training camp that it was going to be a positive situation. setting those expectations and having that timeline. And then when everything is done, whether it's you as a person, a company, or et cetera, the brand, to have a clear assessment of what you could have done better. Because just because you completed the task doesn't mean it couldn't have been done better. So we always try to look at ways to make sure that we look at these situations and improve it and get better as we move forward. We also talked about our Football Unites program. You know, it was started in 2018 around some of the social justice protests around kneeling. And the whole idea is that we want to use our platform to be a positive group of social change, and on the 3 pillars. We want to improve relationships in the community, you know, foster understanding and experience the culture, because as all you know, in South Florida, I mean, you can go 15, 20 minutes in a different direction, and it's a completely different culture, you know, different lifestyles, different things that come forward. But we try to use our brand to positively bring people together around football. I mean, we had 15% capacity this year. We're hopeful for full stadiums. When you look in the stadium, it doesn't really matter who you came from, where you came from, you know, your background. It's always, you're there connected as a Dolphins fan. So how can we use our platform to really bring people together, whether it's youth and law enforcement, working with different organizations, whether it's cultural tours to showcase and highlight the areas, or whether it's some of the things that you'll see around food as well too. So we have about 40 to 50 partners that we work with to either amplify their programs, but also kind of bring them together around humanity and around things that they kind of show, you know, to show people might think they have differences, but the reality is that we're all the same, and we all believe for, you know, equal rights, humanity, no matter where you came from. So really that concept of football being a positive way to unite people. And then our food relief program, that's one of the things that was started this past June with Stephen Ross, and we definitely appreciate and enjoy our relationship with the Fountain to be able to extend this program. So when COVID-19 sort of hit, we wanted to look at ways, how can we impact not only the community that's in need of food and nourishment right now, but also how can we impact local businesses and our economy? Because we, especially a lot of restaurants and neighborhoods around in and around our stadium and around our community has talked about they almost have to shut down their doors because of the ability to do that. And while they have big hearts, they didn't have the capacity to feed the community each and every day. So on weekdays, we did 1,000 meals out of our stadium with Center Plate, and that was a way to kind of help our employees and our part-time staff that lost income because of no Miami Open, no concerts, no other things that were going on. But also we also implemented some programs with our restaurant partners, and obviously the Fountain was one of them as well. So we were able to have this program go for a year. It was scheduled to end in June 1st. Unfortunately, the need is still there, but fortunately, we're still in a place where we can be able to continue to support and help. So we expanded that program past June. So we're looking at doing it for 18 months, but with the idea of not only feeding people and attacking food insecurity in our community, for whether it's, age, students, et cetera, but also supporting our minority-owned businesses, especially in and around Miami Gardens, that have seen the impact as well. So we've been able to have some great community impact that's really tangible, when it comes to that. And so that's a little bit of a part of our brand from a community aspect, from a communications aspect. The main idea, we try to be consistent. It takes time whenever you're developing a brand. You have to say things a lot of times for it to resonate and be in a lot of places with a consistent message. But we have a Stewart right now who can kind of walk you through how we brand from a social perspective, and then Laura will wrap up with marketing as well.
Hey everyone, my name is Stuart. I am on Jason's team on the communication side. I also work very closely with Laura in the marketing department. So just kind of a high level on our social channels. So we have a team of 3 of us who work very closely on our Dolphins channel, our Hard Rock Stadium channels, and also the Miami Open channels. We also have our Dolphins Challenge Cancer event, like Jason said, as well as our Fins Off the Field community account. So we also assist with those when it comes to amplifying content. So kind of some of our goals and objectives. telling the Dolphins story through emotional connections, by understanding our audience and what content they enjoy. And with this, we are taking a look at the analytics and data to see what types of content our audience is resonating with, so that we can make sure that our content is as engaging as possible. There's so many platforms now. It used to just be Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, but now there's TikTok, Reddit, LinkedIn, YouTube. Every social platform has a different audience, and we've learned that instead of posting all of our content across all of our channels, we're being a little bit more selective, so that we can make sure that an audience of a younger demographic, for example, TikTok is around ages 13 to 18, compared to Facebook, which is around 35 to 55, that we're posting content that both of those demographics will engage with, and being more strategic about that. Like Jason said, we work with a lot of departments within the organization to make sure that we are hitting the goals and objectives of our internal departments. So for social, for example, we have obviously our football objectives. We work very closely with our community team, whether it's the food relief program, Football Unites programming, youth programs messaging. We also work with our partnerships team. We sell content that is posted on our social channels. So making sure that we're hitting the partners' goals and objectives as well as ours. And then we also work with our ticketing team too, when it comes to any sort of, messaging around season tickets, ticketing events, et cetera. So we do have a lot of internal departments that we work with, so that we can create a content calendar to prioritize different pieces of content throughout the week. And with social, it is a pretty consistent, 7 days a week, actively posting, looking for opportunities to engage with and monitor. So we definitely want to keep a consistent content calendar, so we are hitting all of the objectives throughout the week, and it's not just posting things just, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We want to spread it out, but also understanding, what time our fans are engaging with our content and really understanding our audience. So kind of with this entire mindset, we're focusing on our quality of content instead of quantity, so we can make sure that we are creating the most engaging content for our audiences with so many different avenues. We also have a very robust influencer program with our marketing team that we work with, and I think that that's a really easy way, besides our collecting user-generated content, that allows us to create different avenues to communicate to our fans. So I think that, social is one of those things that I've been in since 2015, and it has completely changed, I would say, even in the last 6 years. TikTok became a fairly large platform only in the last 18 months. So it will be interesting to see how it continues to evolve. It's like Jason said, continuous learning is a big focus for us. And I think that's really important when it does come to social media, because you could miss the next wave of a social platform, or if you continue to keep your strategy the same, it might not be beneficial for your audience. So really learning and seeing what the latest trends are, what the latest technology is really beneficial for us, as we kind of have to stay on the forefront of what's the latest and greatest, and how can we put that into our strategy. So I would say that's really all I have. But I think for us, again, our biggest thing is connecting with our fans and creating content that is, as engaging as possible. And I know Laura is going to kind of walk you through marketing next, but that is all I have.
All right. Thank you, Jason, for the introduction, and Stu for sharing your wisdom. I'm going to jump in and talk a little bit about marketing and where we've been. So we've come a long way. I've only been around for, it's now a little bit over 2 years, so I can't take a lot of credit for this. Jason and Stu have been here through a lot of this, but I want to take a little bit of a some steps back to show you where we were a couple years ago. And this is what the stadium looked like. It was consistently half empty. We were in the bottom quarter of NFL ticket revenue. 100% of our ad spend was on traditional marketing, and we had little to no social media tracking and monetization. So here's just some examples. I love showing kind of comparisons. Here's some examples of what our creative team used to do, what the photography used to look like. You know, kind of that sort of pose and throw the ball type of photography. This is embarrassingly our Miami Dolphins cheerleader calendar and what we used to look like from a cheer perspective. And then we moved on. What did we do? We renovated the stadium. We shifted our marketing budget to about 100% digital. We built an in-house content and creative team. We developed content properties that live on the social media platforms that Stu just talked about. We implemented a paid social media strategy to really drive leads for ticket sales. We developed strong relationships with each social platform. So each year before COVID, we take a trip out west and we meet with Twitter and Facebook and all of the social platforms to really understand what's new, what's different, what do we need to be thinking about as we move forward. So we have built those relationships and continue to look at building those so that we really are on the forefront. And then we created a process between marketing and our sponsorship sales team. Stu mentioned that we do sell our content to partners, and that's a huge piece of driving revenue for us. So where are we at now? Oh, wait, there is one little, I'm going to show you this. I'm going to just show you this other, I always get a kick out of showing this commercial. Hopefully you can hear it, but this is what we used to do in TV.
Dolphins, the best way to experience Dolphins football is live. And with a 3-game kickoff plan for $126, you'll score seats to the games against the Falcons, Ravens, and Bills. Buy your tickets today, and we'll see you at kickoff.
Very embarrassing, but we've come a long way. So I always laugh at that commercial. I always say it's like those old Crazy Eddie commercials, right? Sale, sale, sale. And I come from retail, so I completely can relate to that. So what is marketing? I thought I'd at least just ground us for a minute in a slide to talk a little bit about marketing in general. You know, the goals of marketing for really any organization. You've got both sides, right? You've got brand building and then you've got transactional. And I always say that brand building is the long game and transactional is the short game. You can't do one without the other. And organizations have a different percentage, right? There are some organizations I've worked for, like Target is a good example, where we were probably 50-50 in brand building and then driving revenue. And then an organization like I worked for Michael's for a while, and it was much more like 80% transactional, where a lot more promotion to the 20% brand building. So I would say you should be a little bit more equal, or it shifts depending upon the time of year, whether you're really more focused on short term to brand building, which has to kind of be a consistent drumbeat along the way. On the brand building side, it's really about driving emotion, deepening that relationship with the fans. Experience is really important. We always talk about the fact that when you come to a Dolphins football game, it should be the best day ever, and that you take that away and want to come back. And we're focused on potential and existing fans, but again, long-term. And then we're ultimately the desired response is that connection. On the transactional side, it's again, very short-term. It's very much about value, driving sales, getting people to buy tickets, usually targeting our existing fans. And the long-term result is driving revenue. So we always kind of ground ourselves in this whenever we're putting together any kind of marketing plan. So this is where we are now. These are some examples of how our photography has really morphed. It's crisp, it's clean, it's emotional, instead of the simple that I showed earlier. Action, always really important. Beautiful colors, sometimes beautiful lighting, and even black and white. And again, showing the emotion of what that football player is feeling at the moment in order for us to relate to him. Some examples of where we took cheer, really looking at the power of the athleticism of our cheer team and showing that in the way we portray them. So now I'm going to also, let me just jump out and show you a little bit of the difference in video. So going from that sale video to this is the way we typically like to show off our video now.
Miami. We may be a city of many different things. But there's something that brings us all together. Our heart, our hustle, our commitment to the grind. We're a community of nurses, chefs, contractors, artists, and football players. All that hard work, sweat, the long hours, the dedication. It's how we got to this moment. It's putting yourself on the line. It's giving it all you've got. It's Miami.
So clearly a difference in where we were and where we are now. From a video perspective, it's, we're faster cuts. We try to, again, go after the emotion, a lot of hype, showing the athleticism of the players and the excitement of the experience at a football game. So I'll talk a little bit about kind of where we're at right now and the things we're doing. Actually, I was reviewing these slides today and I realized even these are outdated from where we're at today and what we're talking about doing as we move into 2021. So we took, as I mentioned earlier, we took our digital strategy to a much bigger, a bigger importance. 100% of our budget back then wasn't focused. We did TV, we did a lot of traditional marketing, and we switched that over to a digital strategy where we really wanted to make sure that we were being driven by analytics, reporting and insights to really drive the performance, drive ticket sales, and also sponsorship revenue. So our team spent a lot of time digging into the analytics. Now, I do think that there's always a little bit of a gut check when it comes to marketing. It can't be pure data, but data does play a really important part, especially when it comes to return on investment. And again, I mentioned that we spent a lot of time learning the platforms. We created a bunch of new content series. Some of these are no longer on this slide, and we're actually talking now about doing some other new stuff. We've got a couple podcasts, as Jason talked about. So we're really continuing to refine what those content series look like and how we can help our partnerships team sell those. So from an NFL perspective, our social content and kudos to Stu on this. I can't take credit for this, but we're #1 in Facebook video views over the last several years, and we continue to grow in impressions and engagements. We still have a little bit of ways to go with Instagram, but we are moving fast and furiously up that chain. And then from a social sponsorship perspective, we are really booming when it comes to the NFL. We're one of the best teams in the NFL on how we sell our social. This is a really ugly slide, but I just use it to demonstrate the difference in platforms. And as I mentioned earlier, we've even added a few more. I noticed TikTok's not on here. We've done a lot with Reddit over the last year. So we continue to really evolve when it comes to selling tickets through different social platforms. And then database, we do a lot via email. There are some days we send out 11 different versions of the same email. We're really very specific about whatever we send to our fans. It's based on what we've heard from them or the way they respond to something that they've seen. So depending upon what they've clicked on, what they've done on social, we can make sure that our journey with them is very focused on the way they've responded. So we continue to build out what we call journey maps from a marketing perspective, so that when you're getting an email, it is relevant to you and not something that you just won't open, because then you'll stop opening emails from us, and we don't want that for sure. And then we have other ways to talk to you, whether it's a Calendly invite, a text, or a call, old-fashioned phone call from your rep. So what's new? Here's just a quick example of some of the things. And again, as I mentioned, like TikTok's not as new anymore, but we've really leveraged influencers in a big way. As Stu mentioned, we have what we call macro level influencer, which is somebody like Rick Ross or Darius Rucker, to micro influencers who are the example here is, I think this is 305 Eats, one of our influencers, where, we bring they have, 100 to 500,000 followers or more. They're just not the big ones. And we bring them to games. This year, we actually had them just talk about how they felt at the game, knowing that safety was really important for us this year. We have them come out and experience our new outdoor theater, things like that, where they can really have that experience and then talk about it on social, which ultimately benefits us. Player touch points. We like to say helmets off is really important to us. People want to know the personalities. They want to know who the players are after they take their helmets off. And we have a lot of great players with really wonderful personalities, including our coach. So we really look to leverage those personalities and use them as we can possibly use them from a social perspective and in video to tell their stories. TikTok keeps getting bigger. Reddit is big. We did a gaming program last year when we had a full stadium. And so we continue to look for what is next and new. So that is it. I will stop sharing and make sure that we leave some opportunity for questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been such a rich experience already with a lot of helpful information. I want to go ahead and open up this time for questions so we can make the most of this time. So I am going to ask you to leave your questions, like state just one question at a time and no compound questions. Or if you want to put them in the chat, you can do that as well. And I will lead it off by just asking, how do you all discern when not to engage on a platform? I know you talked about, how you engage, but how do you discern when not to do it?
Well, Stuart, if you want to.
Yeah, so from a platform strategy, I know that when TikTok, for example, was starting to become a more popular platform, I think for us, we want to make sure we have a strategy behind the platform, doing research on it, seeing, the types of content, what's working, what isn't, before diving into it. We also have with the NFL, we do have platforms that are, approved that have to be approved through the NFL. So, we kind of have to lean on that as well. But, for us, it really is important for us to make sure we have a plan in doing our research, so we are all on the same page. So when we do create a page like a TikTok account, we've done the research to make the determination, okay, we are going to join this platform and start creating content for it. And I think for us, I know that Twitch, which is a video game streaming platform, is, very popular. We're starting to, look at that, in case the NFL does, approve that platform, so we can be ready and just react once it's been green lighted by the league.
And I think really important to add too is that and maybe Stu touched on this, but we are very specific about how we talk to the fan via that certain platform, right? So as she mentioned, TikTok is like for 13 to 18-year-olds. And Facebook is a much older demographic. I like to say I do both, so I'm somewhere in between. But you know, what we're putting out on TikTok is completely different from what we're posting on Facebook for the most part. So, you know, we're really aware of who the audience is, and we change the content based on that specific platform.
Others, if you have questions, you can come forward now and ask your questions. While they are maybe coming up with questions, I did want to ask another one. I always think about, because this is leadership from lifetime learners, besides the information that you shared, is there, can you share something about mistakes that you've learned from, or mistakes that you see commonly made in the industry that we can learn from as well?
I mean, I think I'll start with me because when I was working with the 49ers, and this is a pretty, you know, tragic story. We had a preseason game, and we had a player right after we did our final prayer. He kind of dropped, you know, he dropped to his knees and passed away in the locker room. Now we didn't know he's passed away at that time. We just know he was dealing with some complications. And this is like a pre-social media world, so it probably would have been a little different story then. We're able to kind of work with the media there, get a chance to notify the family and do all those things. But I knew while I wasn't in charge of the department at the time, I didn't feel that we were prepared as much from a media perspective to be able to do that. So ever since that day, you know, I created I created a crisis management checklist, sort of like what I've shared before, and just different ways to do it, and looking through different quotes, looking through different things. So while we were able to get through it, and we managed it, you know, okay, from a PR, you know, perspective. Obviously, the tragedy is that a person, a player, you know, lost his life, during that time. But I think we were kind of like didn't manage it as well as we could have, and from that day on, I, you know, made a vow to myself that no matter what the position that I had, that I was going to be prepared for as best I could for any situation. And so there's always things you think you could have done differently, no matter that situation and other ones. But I think being prepared, and really, again, to the purpose of this call, is to be a continuous learner. Like, try to research as much as you can, whether it's your brand, your company, your industry. No matter what it is, you can take learning from everything. So it's actually good to know what you can do, and do what you can do good, but also what you can learn from someone else's mistakes. I know on a personal level, one of the reasons why I got into this field of public relations, I had mentioned I had worked in the Black Student Association, but I wanted to get an internship at a local television outlet through my relationship with the chapter of the Black Journalists Association. And there's no disparagement on, you know, on the media industry as a whole, but you know, I got an internship. I was a videographer, so I was going around, you know, taking video of different things, and I frankly got tired of seeing us, you know, as minorities and specifically as Black men being shown in that way. So I said, like, what can I do in a way that can really show positive images? And then, you know, with my background in sports and my love of the game, it kind of was blessed to be able to put in this position. So I think the internship taught me that I actually learned more in an internship, because it showed me that's something I didn't want to do, and look to the other side to be able to get to where I am right now. So I think those situations were both a benefit to me, but those are both things to learn, opportunities that I had.
I would say for social, you know, since we are, you know, kind of one of the forward-facing communications for our fans, you know, like Laura said, all of our platforms have a different tone, and also different teams and different leagues have completely different approaches to social. I will say, and this is something that whenever I've done anything with our players about social media too, is, you know, screenshots last forever. And that's the mentality I think of with that is, you know, some teams, you know, take a little bit more of a snarky approach to social, and, you know, that's that's totally fine. But I think that sometimes, the social media manager, there can be moments where there's times where we want to reply, if someone's, saying something in our mentions. And I've seen it happen where a team will reply to someone and give a snarky response back, and they could, they might not have gotten it approved, and they post it, and then, 2 minutes later, it's already been deleted, but someone's already taken a screenshot of it and it's been posted. I feel very fortunate that I will, run, if we really don't do that approach, but, if it's something that's a little bit maybe out of our wheelhouse, I will work with Jason and Laura on it to get their thoughts and feedback too. And I always think, when we are posting, how would I kind of think of it in different layers? How would a fan look at this? How would my boss look at this? How would our president and chairman look at this? How would my parents look at this? Because it is good to just kind of read it in all different levels, because especially how things can be misinterpreted on social media, you kind of do have to think of all of the different layers that you have to, think of just from what you are saying out and putting out on social. So I think that's kind of a lesson I've learned is, people interpret every post differently and you'll get different reactions, and just being mindful of that.
I'll just jump in real quick. I know we're probably running out of time, but it's a personal learning just for me. And I think Jason actually and Stu are always the ones who tell me to slow down, right? I learn a lot from them because I always want to react. And they're like, slow down, let's sit back and let's talk. But early into my career, several years into my career, I didn't get a job that I wanted. I didn't get a promotion that I wanted. And so I took the time to do a 360, what's called a 360, where I went around and got feedback from peers, from my team, from my bosses, just personal feedback about what am I doing that isn't helping me advance. And while it was a very painful exercise, because, we tend to take those things very personally, it really helped me grow, because I learned a lot about the perception that other people might have had about me that I didn't realize that perception was out there. And so I was able to change and grow from that. And ultimately, like after kind of going through that exercise, I did move on to get promoted later. But that's always stuck with me, because the person I worked with on the 360, she said 95% of people want to know where they sit. They want to know feedback. And even though it's hard to give it and also hard to get it, it really is important. I know that's kind of a basic lesson, but one that I continue to make sure I do constantly, no matter how long I've been working, and also do with my team too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We have two more quick questions. Stuart, this is for you, and I'm going to ask the second question. So Jason and Laura, you can think about this. Stuart, if you can answer Missy White's question, which is, at what time of day do you see more activities on the different platforms where fans interact with your posts? And then if Jason and Laura, if you could just have an answer for if a younger person or somebody changing their careers wanted to go in communications or something like that, what are just a couple things that they should do or keep in mind?
So for the activities on different platforms where our fans are interacting, usually we have seen traditionally, and now a lot of the platforms do offer these metrics on the back end where you can see your ideal posting times. For us personally, obviously in season, Saturdays and Sundays are some of our most engaged times, as well as Mondays, depending on the outcome of the game. I will say that for us, it's usually in the morning. And then also around dinner time, 6 to 8 is where we'll see a lot of our highest engagement. I kind of think I think that kind of makes sense. Just from a work day, people are probably looking at their phones before they start work, around lunch, and then when they're home. So that's kind of where we're seeing most of our engagement. But it is great that Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram and YouTube all show now, your metrics where you are able to see, when users are engaging with your content. But it could be different for, all brands. but I do think that using those resources are beneficial, so it can help you with your posting and content strategy.
Thank you. Laura, Jason, or even Stuart, if you can answer the question about communications or entering into your fields.
I guess I would say from my perspective, it's all about kind of like building your platform and your brand. If you were in a communications skill, those kind of things in terms of being able to write, being able to communicate, understanding social media, is very, very important. Social media, I think, is a great equalizer. I mean, you can kind of build your platform and your brand, off that, and kind of be consistent, and also understand the brand. If you're not looking to go on your own and looking to join an organization, understand the brand and messages of that organization as well too, because they kind of differ from space to space. I mean, Stuart talked about the different delineations between each team, but that could be around each industry as well. But I think the core elements, still remain. For us, we hired a person to be one of our podcasters, and he was actually, a person that was a fanatic that was writing dolphin stories and creating content, in Seattle, Washington. And so we were able to see this person and amass, a good following. And our direction was like, why do we try to, in this situation, why do we try to create some engagement, work with someone who has the engagement, who has the passion, and who has a love for the team that's communicated well? How can we help that person go to the next level by bringing them into the Dolphins brand? So I think with everything is, social media is obviously a big thing. Being consistent with your communication and really understanding who you are, and more importantly, if you're trying to get a job at an organization, what they represent as well.
Yeah, I mean, and I would say, any kind of education, especially now with COVID, there's so many classes you can take out there, even from just virtually now. But marketing continues to get more and more data focused. And especially when it comes to things like, right now, when we're trying to fill a position on the marketing side, we're always looking for that digital analytics experience or that knowledge of the analytics behind trying to drive leads and drive revenue and drive sales. So any of those kind of classes that are out there, I think, is beneficial. LinkedIn is now, you can just find a ton of information out there on LinkedIn. So making sure you're kind of not only learning, but also, to Jason's point, be ensuring that your brand and the way you put your brand out there is also very important.
Awesome. Thank you. And I will make sure I download what you just gave us, Jason, in the link. I know time is of the essence, and we've used way more of your time than we originally said, but it is so rich and so thankful. I know Pastor Lomax, he was not available, but we really, really appreciate your time. And I know everyone has a busy afternoon, so thank you so much for spending this time with us today and for giving us just the richness of this information. It is definitely going to have an impact on us at the Fountain, and I'm sure on us as individuals. So I want to leave it to you all if there's any final words that you have. Stuart, Jason, or Laura, for us.
I want to say, just from what kind of Laura put in terms of our marketing, goals, there's building the brand and there's transactional. And I know this relationship here is not a transactional relationship for us. We want to continue to have a long-term relationship and partnership. So we're here to continue to answer any questions, help, as you see fit, and just continue to be, engaged. I mean, this is what you talked about, a rich partnership and a relationship. And that's something we want to continue about. And like from a crisis management aspect, I was trying to get prepared for this this call, and I guess I figured people would ask me who we're going to draft, so that question never came up. So I'm actually good, on that front. So I was able to make it through without not answering that question. But again, like we appreciate these opportunities, and we'll love to do and engage more.
Absolutely. Well, thank you everyone for joining us for Leadership from Lifetime Learners. Thank you to our special guests, and we really appreciate you. Please, this recording will be available over the next 48 hours through our website and our platform as we edit it. But thank you so much, and have a wonderful and blessed day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.